So, as we all know, Diddy has been in very, very hot water behind the allegations that's been going on surrounding Bad Boy. Also, the surface video of him abusing Cassie and also the allegations coming from other women. Since then, a lot of celebrities and other people have been speaking out. And most recently, Biggie Small's mother has spoken out about what she'd like to do to Diddy. But, it kind of opened up another can of worms. And it's really not looking good for Miss Veta Wallace. Is y'all ready to talk about this, girl? Because I'm ready to go down this little rabbit hole. Let's juice.
Come on, Blazer.
It's the beef for me.
Wah, 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 for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Drop it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Do it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Come on, baby, we are.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl Voodoo Doll TV, back with a quick little jokes or whatever the case may be. And girl, the Diddy saga continues to go on and on and on. More people are adding their 2 cents to what's been going on around here. I'm over here saying let's have at it. Let's get him up out of here, pack him up by the end of the year so we can be done. He needs to go away. But that's not quite why we're here. So as you guys know, Sean P. Diddy, Take that, Jakes Combs has been alleged to have done a lot of things in his past. A lot of allegations have come forward since the case between him and Cassie. She actually was able to sue him successfully. He settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. And we've all been waiting patiently as the days and weeks go by for more and more information to come forward. So recently, a video surfaced and emerged of Diddy actually being extremely violent toward Cassie. It was a very bad DV situation, sent the internet up in flames because nobody could believe Brother Love would do such heinous things. But when we saw it with our own eyes, it kind of made it hard for him to even come back from. People were kind of just like, yeah, this guy is a monster. Now, I'm not sure why people didn't know that Diddy was a monster before. I mean, we've all seen Making the Band. We've all seen other clips of him being extremely wild and disrespectful to other people. He hasn't had one good bad boy artist that has been successful on his label. I've always known it. I've always felt it. And, when I saw the video, it kind of to me matched up my idea of him already. But nevertheless, a lot of people were extremely shocked. And this sent the internet up in flames, which has caused Diddy to since then come out and apologize. Take a little brief clip or a brief listen at what Diddy had to say in his apology.
So difficult to reflect on the darkest times. Sometimes you gotta do that. I was fucked up. I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy, go into rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace. I'm so sorry.
So you guys heard Diddy's apology, and I would like to say that since then, so many people have come out to speak up about this guy. People are resurfacing old stories. I know a lot of people that he's messed over from Making the Band, like Aubrey O'Day, Freddie P, a lot of people from even in his other past that we didn't know about. We have bodyguards. Everybody's coming out and telling their story. Now, the weirdest part is all these people have been saying the same thing for years, but it seemed like it just took one big nudge over the edge for everybody to finally see Diddy for who he is, which is not a good person at all. But that's not why we're here. One of the people who decided to speak out was Biggie Small's mother, Miss Veta Wallace. Now, Veta Wallace is the mother of rapper Biggie Smalls. She has been known to be vocal about certain things as it pertains to her son, normally minding her business, hitting away. But as this Diddy stuff started to resurface, a lot of things started to come back out. And Miss Veta decided to come out and say what she thought about the whole situation. Let's get into it. Now, Rolling Stones recently caught on to this whole Diddy situation, and they did a long article detailing everything leading up to now, past the lawsuit, and also alleging that there will be a criminal case opening. So since then, the Notorious B.I.G.'s mother, which would be Miss Veta Wallace, spoke out to Rolling Stones, and this is what she had to say. She says, "I want to slap the daylights out of Sean Combs." Now, in the article, it says, "I hope to God he sits his mother down and spills his guts and apologizes to her," says Veta Wallace. Now, the article goes on to detail other things, but here's some key things that we got from the article. So the article says the Notorious B.I.G.'s mom, Veta Wallace, has some big words for Sean Diddy Combs. Wallace told Rolling Stone in a story published Thursday that she wants to slap the daylights out of Diddy. "I'm sick to my stomach," Wallace told Rolling Stone about Diddy's legal troubles. "I'm praying for Cassie. I'm praying for his mother. I don't want to believe the things that I've heard, but I've seen the hotel video. I pray that he apologizes to her." Miss Wallace goes on to say, "I hope that I see Sean one day, and the only thing I want to do is slap the daylights out of him," she added. "And you can quote me on that, because I liked him. I didn't want to believe all the awful things, but I'm so ashamed and embarrassed." Now, these comments from Biggie Small's mom, they basically emerged after the Rolling Stone did their investigation and published it earlier this week. It was published with a series of serious allegations about Bad Boy Records founder and alleged bad behavior, which included details about Biggie and Diddy's relationship. Now, I found this to be quite interesting because it has been alleged that Miss Wallace believed that there was some foul play as it pertains to her son and his unaliving. I've even heard things such as she thinks that Diddy had something to do with it. Again, don't quote me. These are all rumors, tea, and this is what they said. But they said that she believed that the FBI and all these other people failed her son, and that basically she doesn't know who to trust. So her saying that she's praying for Diddy and, oh my God, I hope she sits down with him, and she, but then turning back saying she'll slap him, it kind of was a little weird. Well, since that came out, it kind of opened up wounds about her son Biggie Smalls. Now, apparently, he was pretty violent himself. According to rumors, the Notorious B.I.G. was much more than a famous rapper. According to rumors circling around the industry and some in New York, it was already promoted and already said that he had been pretty violent himself toward the women in his life. Now, we all know he had the situation with Faith Evans, which was his wife. We've even seen it displayed in some of his music videos where he's kicking women out and doing certain things of that nature, which probably wasn't seen as too bad back then. But in the climate we live in today, it kind of gives you a window inside what was actually happening behind the scenes. So this brings up not only Biggie in his early years of rapping and trying to make it in the industry, running across Diddy and actually signing. It brings up two things. Number one, Biggie was already done allegedly with Diddy. He wanted nothing to do with Bad Boy. He wanted to get out of the contract. He was ready to go. And it was even said that Biggie made this known to people around the industry and around the label before he was unfortunately unalived in LA. Now, most people knew Biggie from his East Coast, West Coast beef with Tupac. We all knew him as the big, soulful, big old guy. He was like the plush teddy bear, but what I'm hearing from behind the scenes is it was nothing of the sort. There were multiple stories flying around about who Biggie was and how he treated other women in the camp and also outside of the camp, how he was a womanizer. There were rumors about all types of things, some of the things he rapped about in his lyrics. But unfortunately, Biggie wouldn't live to be able to tell his side of the story. He wouldn't even live to be able to defend himself because he was gunned down in LA. Some say that Biggie really had no interest in going to LA, but he wanted to promote his album, so there he went. And it was said that on one night in LA, after coming from a club, that someone pulled up beside a car where Biggie was sitting, and he was unfortunately gunned down, where P. Diddy and a whole bunch of others were there. Now, it was also rumored that his mother, Veta Wallace, said that he was already being followed by the FBI and was not sure how this could happen and her son be affected, knowing that he had the coverage that he had from the feds and all these other people. Now, everyone was aware that he was married to Faith Evans, but everyone was also aware in hip hop that him and Lil Kim had a very serious relationship behind the scenes. Here you see Lil Kim inconsolable after the funeral as if she could not make it past, and it was just a very tumultuous time for a lot of us. Now, Lil Kim Kimberly Jones was known as the first lady of Bad Boy. Lil Kim was the girl that burst onto the scene. She was raunchy, she was raw, she was beautiful, she was everything. She had fashion sense. Everybody in the room shut down when she came in, and she had bars. She spit like the men, but was very feminine in her presence and in the way she delivered. Everybody, including myself, were huge fans of Lil Kim. We could not get enough of this little brown girl from New York who came on the scene very confident, very cocky, and basically hanging with all the dudes, and she the shortest and the smallest, but yet the tallest and the biggest in the crew. We all love Lil Kim. Anybody who knows, there would be no Nicki Minaj if it were not for Lil Kim. Lil Kim was the blueprint, and those are the facts. Sometimes the hard facts for some people to grasp, but I digress. Argue down in the comments. Anyways, so Lil Kim was, I guess you would kind of say, the side chick of Biggie, even though I want to say she was with him before he got with Faith Evans, but nevertheless, he married Faith, and Lil Kim was the girl that he was with on the side. Everybody knew he helped her with lyrics. He helped her do a lot of things. Like, they had a really, really close relationship. And you can see in this interview that I want to show you where she's talking about her relationship with Biggie. Let's get into it.
Can I ask you, and I want to get back to you, but again, like, obviously him being a mentor in the studio, and you know, you've always had this thing. You've always been very open that there was some things he would write or help you with, and then there was things that you did on your own, like the Benjamins. He wasn't even in the studio.
He wasn't at all, or no time.
Or no time.
Or my first crush on you. He wasn't even around.
I remember, I think it was Stretch Armstrong on the mixtape. There was a version of Queen Bitch with the big vocals.
Yeah.
And it sounded dope, and it sounded funny at the same time, because here Big is talking about playing with his coochie and stuff like that. How many, like, do many of those exist? Like, are there any other kind of demo vocals?
You would have heard it by now. But see,
so there was that interview where she was defending how Biggie, yes, did help her, but she wrote a lot of her own things. A lot of people had those issues when it came to Lil Kim because they thought her career would be gone after Biggie was unfortunately unalive. But here we are years later, Lil Kim is still thriving. Not as much as she used to, but yet still thriving. Now, what is the point in this? Lil Kim has had this very tumultuous relationship with Biggie. I want to say there was a two-sided situation as it pertained to this relationship, because on the one hand, she'd always praise him, talked about how much she loved him, how much she adored him. And then on the other hand, she'd speak about some sort of abuses that would happen. Now, as Miss Wallace comes out to talk about her stuff and how she felt about the whole situation with Diddy and Cassie, that emerged some old audio of Lil Kim doing an interview speaking about a time where her and Biggie had a real bad blowout physically. And this is what she had to say. You guys check this out.
To be rapping in my lion just. I got my headphones on like this. I'm like, yeah, you know that. Boom, my headphones on. And I was crying. I was so scared. I didn't know what happened. And you trying to play me? You trying to play me? I'm like, well, you trying to play me? You got all these skanks in here. Wow. And we started fighting, and we tore the plaques off the wall and everything. And he choked me out in the elevator, so I passed out. And then look.
And you were still loving this man after all of this.
I don't know why. But I tell you sometimes, if he wasn't dead, I can't remember it. I love him.
So you guys heard that audio, and I think what's most disturbing about what she's saying is not even what she's saying. It's just really the fact that these people are sitting there laughing about it. But I have to understand there was a difference in time. Back then, those type of things were not seen as heinous as they are today. So I have to keep in mind the way things were as far as culture in our hip hop culture in the 90s and the early 2000s. But ultimately, today is very, very cringe. And I want to say Lil Kim really did a lot of laughing and smiling to probably hide the hurt and keep from crying, because there's no way to believe that that would be one of the good times that she had with her former partner Biggie Smalls. Now, since this clip has made its way around the internet again, it has made the internet now talk about the violence that was going on not only in Diddy's world, but in hip hop period, and it brings up the violence in Biggie Smalls. So a lot of you guys may not know this. Like I said, there was a time where people did these type of things and you kind of just mind your business and just let it be, you know? But in 2024, no ma'am, no spam, no turkey, nor ham, okay? These people is on here saying, oh no, get Biggie up here. And I don't know how they're gonna get him up here, but nevertheless, the people want Biggie's head. But not only Biggie, now the internet has resurfaced an old interview between Wendy Williams and Miss Veta Wallace. And the once seemed to be grieving mother no longer looks like she's really that. It's kind of making her in a really bad light with what she had to say when those accusations surfaced in the past. Y'all check out these transcripts. So Wendy Williams was able to reflect on her interview with Miss Wallace, and we all know she was the queen of gossip, right? And this is what she had to say. She says, Veta Wallace, the mother of the notorious B.I.G. Christopher Wallace, was a guest on my show in the spring of 2003. She was coming on to promote Big's Night Out, a charity event to raise money for Christopher Wallace Foundation, which provides books and computers to schools primarily in the Brooklyn area where Biggie was unalived in 1997 and grew up. Wendy says, I thought to myself, this is going to be the most boring situation. In my mind, I wasn't billing it as a full-fledged interview. Miss Wallace came to the show with R&B songstress Faith, who would normally get the experienced line of questioning, but because she was there as the dutiful daughter-in-law instead of the first lady of Bad Boy Records, I couldn't go there with her either. I mean, she was there with Miss Wallace, mature, motherly Miss Wallace, right? I couldn't ask those kinds of questions in front of her. Miss Wallace was bringing this dark cloud of maturity over the whole damn studio. But I have to tell you, that woman just came in with her honesty, her smile, and her wisdomatic ways and changed everything I was feeling. She just lit up the room and ended up being one of my best interviews. She was surprisingly a lot smaller in person. Her hair was done proper in an upsweep. Miss Wallace was not shiny. She was understated elegance. You could tell by the fabric that she was wearing good clothing, expensive clothing, but she wasn't wearing labels or jewelry. Miss Wallace was no Janice Combs, if you know what I mean. And she was no wallflower either. Miss Wallace bought the heat. She not only talked about her age and how she hadn't had sex in years, she also talked candidly about her son Biggie and his relationships with different women. The conversation led to Lil Kim, and that's when it got interesting. There had been allegation made that Biggie was abusive to Lil Kim during their relationship and that he even pointed a GUN at her. Miss Wallace says, if my son held a GUN to her head, he should have pulled the trigger and blown her brains out. Now that was a quote from Wendy Williams on her interview with Miss Wallace, and let me just say this, that was extremely shocking, telling, and very jarring. I cannot believe that this sweet little woman would say something like that about a person, regardless of what the relationship was in the past between them, no matter what he did to her or she did to him. The fact that basically she would sit there and say something so crazy is insane to me. I'm sorry, it just doesn't sit right. It doesn't feel right. It's just not okay. Now, there have been rumors that I've heard that they were saying Lil Kim had something to do with his unaliving. I'm not sure how true that is. We all know how that Biggie and Bad Boy situation was going. However, it still doesn't give the right for this woman to say something so horrible. And this is making people on the internet, especially Twitter, freak out, because now people are not looking at her as this innocent young woman who once lost a son, if you know what I mean. It actually makes her look like a bad person. And I would hate to say it, but I'm just telling you how it is. Because at the end of the day, Lil Kim is still a person. She's still a woman. She still has her own things going on. And nobody deserves to have a GUN put to their head, let alone the mother of that person to go on an interview and say something so heinous and so horrible. But anyway, Twitter ain't liking this at all. So one user says, right, like why are people ignoring that her son was abusive too? Another person says, sometimes I really wonder what goes on inside some people's heads. And then another person says, excuse me, with the confused dog. And I was just like, yeah, those are my sentiments exactly. Other users go on to say, oh my God. Another person say, I appreciate you for linking the source, which was the video I showed you guys. Another person says, woo child, this something wicked. Another person says, this is so sickening, oh my God. And then this person says, that's such an unhinged thing to say. WTF. I am in 100% agreement, especially with the last person. I mean, why would you say something so unhinged like that during an interview? I don't know, maybe she was a grieving mother at the time. I can't really call it, but it's just weird to me. Now, another person speaks about that rumor I was telling you guys about where they said Lil Kim has something to do with Biggie's unaliving. This person says, Diddy plotted his unaliving because he left Bad Boy. Lil Kim still friends with Diddy after all Biggie did for her. Yeah, I'd be mad too. Another person says, I didn't know Biggie's mom was still with us. Another person says she hates black people, that's why, which is weird because she's black, nevertheless. And then another person with the confused James Earl Jones gift. Now, a couple more users came out and said, it just makes me wonder what type of life she lived for her to bluntly say that. And then another person says, what's wrong with her? I don't know, but I do think that I want to add my 2 cents in at this point. Here are the facts. Miss Veta Wallace is and was a grieving mother. She lost her only child, which was Christopher Wallace, aka Biggie Smalls. I think he was the only child. Y'all correct me down in the comments. But nevertheless, she lost her only child. That interview, I want to say, was less than 10 years after she had lost her child. Maybe there's some pent up aggression there. Maybe there's some past history there where she just probably just could not stand Lil Kim, and just didn't want her around. Maybe she feels like she has something to do with her son's unaliving. Maybe those are things that are going through this woman's mind for her to feel like, she should say something so heinous. However, in grief, we also have to be mindful that just because you're grieving, words still mean something, right? A grieving mother does not give her the pass to say really nasty, horrible things. It just doesn't. It never has, and it never will. Although I understand maybe how she may have felt, I do not say that she gets a pass to say those type of things. And one thing about the internet, anything you've said or done in the past, they will go grab it up and put it back in your face to be like, how dare you speak? Now, in my opinion, Miss Wallace speaking on the whole Diddy situation was weird, simply because just like in the black community, I don't care where you are, but in most black communities, a lot of times the women know exactly what's going on with the boys or with the sons or with the husbands and the uncles, but they don't say anything. They kind of keep quiet. I'm pretty sure Miss Wallace knows or have heard of her son being violent to women before. So for her to speak out on the whole Diddy thing, it was kind of like, girl, ma'am, no ma'am, how dare you, when you basically harbored a whole abuser as well. And I think that's what most people are kind of wrestling with when it comes to Miss Wallace saying the things that she said. Now, it kind of lines up with her saying she wants to slap the daylights out of Sean Diddy Combs, as do most of us do, ma'am. So get in line. But nevertheless, I'm saying that to say it kind of speaks to character. And to me, it gives Miss Wallace could have been, and I don't know this lady, but could have been one of those mothers who knew what her son was doing, but turned a blind eye simply because it was her son. That's just what it gives to me. And him being celebrity, or Biggie being this big rapper from the East Coast, does not give him right to put hands on people, because abuse is never okay. DV is never okay. Any of those things will never be okay. But I have to be honest, we curated a culture in hip hop that allows those type of things to exist and nobody say anything. There are so many women in hip hop, even if they're not rappers or singers, there are so many women who go through those things and they just suffer silently because they know that the masses won't be on their side, because these people who get these celebrity issues and these celebrity statuses, they don't normally get held to the fire for the things that they do. Just like with Diddy. Diddy's only being held to the fire because, in my opinion, the powers that be is ready to cut the lights off on him. That's just what this is all about. But they knew about all of this, as did a lot of people in the industry knew about the Biggie and Lil Kim situation. But now that it's a big cluster around Diddy, now everybody wants to speak out. And at the end of the day, you may like Lil Kim, you may not like her, you may not feel like she's your favorite rapper, you may feel like she's this, that, and a third, but as a woman, she does not deserve to be abused. Rather it be by a celebrity or a regular person, no woman deserves abuse. And that's just where it is with this. So Miss Wallace was kind of tone deaf on her response to this whole situation, especially knowing that her son had a past himself and they would probably pull it up. So I didn't think that was a good look for Miss Wallace to do that, but here we are. And I'm thankful that we've cultivated a culture that shames these types of behaviors. I know that we're like a sheep culture because most of us only do it when the masses does it, but hopefully this could be a lesson to some people that, hey, regardless of who you are, you can't get away with doing certain things to people. Now, Miss Wallace, I know she probably was coming from a good place and said that she wants Diddy to sit down with his mother, but honestly, I think that there should be a big self-reflection, not only for Miss Wallace, but for the culture and for black people in general, because at the end of the day, this ain't right. It's not right. You knew about your son doing some things allegedly. So I truly don't understand why you get to be the voice of any type of reason when it pertains to this topic. But that's just my take on it. What do you guys think about this? Drop down in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow me on all platforms, and I'll see y'all who's later. Bye.
Mr. Carroll, how you give the voodoo doll time to talk? I don't get no fucking time to talk.
Who the voodoo doll is?
The nigga you just had up here.